You've definitely seen the posters in school hallways, and you probably heard the motivational speeches. This idea that you can actually grow your intelligence. It's everywhere. It's called the growth mindset, and it's easily one of the most popular educational ideas of our time. But what if this powerful idea isn't the whole story? Today, we're going to unpack the promise, the problems, and what might be the real power of the growth mindset.
This sentence, this right here, perfectly captures the whole promise of it. It's so optimistic, so empowering. It completely challenges that old idea of fixed intelligence. It suggests the key to getting smarter isn't about some innate genius you're born with, but it's about something else entirely.
So where did this, revolutionary idea even come from? To really get why it's so appealing, we need to look at how it broke away from a very long history of thinking about intelligence as something you're just stuck with.
For a long time, the main view, championed by people like Alfred Binet, was that intelligence was this fixed thing we could measure. But then you had thinkers like John Dewey start to push back, arguing that our environment and our education could actually develop our intelligence. And this really set the stage for psychologist Carol Dweck, who in the 1990s gave this idea a name and a really powerful framework, the growth mindset.
Okay, so Dweck's whole theory really boils down to these two opposite ways of thinking. If you've got a fixed mindset, you believe your talents are just set in stone. This makes you avoid challenges because, well, failure feels like a final judgment on who you are. But with a growth mindset, you see failure completely differently. Not as a verdict, but as an opportunity, like a signpost on the path to getting better.
And Dweck showed this with a really fascinating experiment. She took a bunch of students who all did great on a test and split them into two groups. To one group, she said, "Wow, you must be so smart at this." To the other, "Wow, you must have worked really hard." It's such a tiny change in language, right? But it had a massive impact.
The results were, wow, they were stark. The students who were praised for their effort, they became more resilient, more eager for the next challenge. But the ones praised for just being smart, they got more cautious, almost afraid to risk losing that smart label. The takeaway couldn't be clearer. The type of praise we give can totally change how someone approaches learning. This one finding basically launched a global movement.
So this sounds like the magic bullet for education, doesn't it? Just tell kids to have a growth mindset and boom, they'll succeed. But when this theory moved from the neat and tidy lab into the real world, things got, well, a lot more complicated. Which leads us to a really critical question. If this idea is so powerful, why doesn't it seem to work all the time?
The reality is, trying to implement the growth mindset in schools has been incredibly tough. The idea itself might sound simple, but the environment it's dropped into is anything but.
And here's the central problem, the huge contradiction. A school might put up posters all over the walls saying, "Embrace failure, it's a chance to grow." But then, that very same school system is constantly testing, ranking, and sorting students based on their performance. So students are told that failure is good for learning, but the system punishes them for it. It creates this huge disconnect that can completely undermine the entire message.
Even Carol Dweck herself has voiced some major concerns about this. She worries that her theory has been really oversimplified, turning into what she calls a false growth mindset. It's gotten all mixed up with just boosting self-esteem, just telling kids they can do anything to make them feel good, without connecting it to the hard, messy work of actual learning and improvement.
And beyond these problems with implementation, a much more serious challenge has popped up. Researchers have started asking a really tough question. Can we consistently replicate Dweck's original findings? And well, the answer has been surprisingly controversial.
This chart shows the issue in really stark terms. So that first bar represents the big positive effect that was found in Dweck's original studies. But when other researchers, like Professor Timothy Bates, tried to replicate the experiment, they found something totally different. Their results, that second bar, is what's called a null result, which is basically the scientific way of saying, yeah, we didn't find any meaningful effects here, nothing happened. And Professor Bates, well, he doesn't mince words. His research suggests that simply believing you have a growth mindset doesn't automatically lead to better grades or make you more resilient. This is all part of a much wider replication crisis in psychology, and it's casting some serious doubt on whether a simple mindset pep talk is the cure-all it was promised to be. So, where does that leave us? Is the growth mindset just a failed idea? Well, not necessarily. But all this criticism forces us to think about it in a much more nuanced way. Maybe its true value isn't quite what we thought it was. Okay, this slide gets to the heart of a major reevaluation.
The common assumption has always been that having a better mindset leads to achievement. But what if we have the arrow pointing the wrong way? What if genuine, tangible achievement is what actually builds a confident, growth-oriented mindset in the first place?
Just think about it. Successfully writing a tough computer program is infinitely more powerful for your confidence than someone just telling you that you could be a good coder. That feeling of real, tangible accomplishment, that's the most potent driver of motivation and the desire to keep improving.
This suggests a completely different approach. Instead of starting with motivational speeches, focus on teaching concrete skills. Guide students through the process of mastering something real, like how to write a strong introduction to an essay. And then you praise their specific effort and their tangible progress along the way. Confidence becomes a byproduct of competence, not the other way around.
And this really brings us to our final conclusion. The true value of the growth mindset probably isn't as a quick fix poster or a 5-minute speech for students. Its real power lies as a guiding philosophy for teachers, for parents, for all of us. A core belief that everyone is capable of growth, which should then inform how we design our teaching, how we give feedback, and how we structure our entire educational system.
Ultimately, this leaves us with a challenging but really important question. If genuine achievement is the real key, then our whole focus has to shift. Instead of just trying to change mindsets directly, we need to ask ourselves, how do we build environments that give every single person the tools, the guidance, and the opportunities to achieve something real? Answering that, well, that might just be the true path to growth.